There is much to say we're sorry for as a nation. So much, you've heard it before. And it can be hard to say you're sorry. It can also be tremendously easy, too easy, right? How many of us know somebody who apologizes reflexively? Perhaps that's us, a defense mechanism to deflect conflict, riposte. But to truly say you're sorry and to mean it in your bones, that's a whole nother matter. From Rosh Hashanah, which was observed last weekend, through the days of awe, the Jewish people have for well over 1,000 years taken this time to seek forgiveness, to say, I am sorry, to practice the old art of atonement. The final day, Yom Kippur, marks the beginning of the Jewish New Year, the highest of holy days. Excuse me, I'm having some contact troubles. Gemar Chatima Tova. I hope I didn't butcher that, friends. For our friends who observe, may you be sealed in the book of life. According to tradition, it is during this time that the book of life is opened, and the names of the wicked are cast out, and the names of the good are sealed forever, while the rest of us who are kinda in between are given a pass to keep trying for the whole ethical life thing. It is a time of ritual, profound ritual. From sundown to sundown, the people gather at the temple for prayer and fasting, sacred music, the fire and the light, the blowing of the shofar, a long, majestic ritual horn, the shofar. And through this ritual, through this practice of atonement, all is forgiven and the heart is made pure. Yet to atone is not a one and done thing. We can be intoxicated by this idea that of forgiveness as being a thing you just do and you get it over with and now I feel better and whew. It don't work like that. Because Yom Kippur has happened every year for over 1,000 years. So there's always a need to come back to the table, to say I'm sorry, and to re-engage with that ongoing process of atonement. This is specific to Judaism, but I believe this can be relevant to just about anybody, because don't we all have to say that we're sorry? Of course we do. Once in a while, at least. Some of us, more than others. To atone cannot be a one and done thing. I've been thinking about that word a lot this week. Atonement. In other words like reconciliation, redemption, forgiveness, accountability. Salvation was a word we got thrown around a lot when I was growing up. Presbyterian in rural East Tennessee, very concerned with salvation. A related idea, but different. Accountability and atonement begins with us going into an area where maybe we have messed up and being vulnerable. So it's not just the apology. It's not just forgiveness. It's the whole kit and caboodle, the whole thing. The whole sorry to forgiveness, and also what comes after, because atonement isn't done. When someone says you're good, there is more to do. It's a high calling. It can seem kind of stressful. One who approaches forgiveness with a different light might look at Yom Kippur and think, that sounds hard and sad to think about all the things I've done that are wrong. And maybe grief is a natural response when we're faced with our misdeeds, our misgivings, those times we were complicit or just ignorant. It doesn't feel good to not be good, but gosh, it doesn't have to be so sad. I believe it must be serious. We must take seriously, like Valerie Carr is lifting up, we are a nation in need of redemption, and so we must take seriously the plight of the oppressed in this country and the long history that accompanies it. And this is itself a spiritual act. For atonement, we often think about saying, I'm sorry to a friend or some individual we have wronged. And if we think about forgiveness this way, we're partway there, but we miss out on this element of atonement. Because to atone, doesn't that word have some gravitas to it? It has some weight. Where's Michael Lynn? We talk about words all the time. It seems to me you forgive people, you atone before something you are in awe of, something bigger than you. The whole of our lives, the whole of a year, the legacy of this country, and the ways in which we live in it. And nobody, friends, nobody gets out of here without taking wounds and giving wounds out. Nobody here, not one of us, is absolved completely of harm doing. We have done it. I have done it. We have done it. And it has also happened to us as well. We are not monsters, and we are not, strictly speaking, only on the receiving end of things. We are in a relationship with this world, and sometimes that is beautiful and wonderful, like how gas exchange works with the lungs and makes us relational with plants. Beautiful. The ways in which our participating in this particular economic system does indeed damage the world. Everything with palm oil, friends, peanut butter, you name it. Very likely made with chattel slavery. Ask me later for information about that. It's a sad thing, but more importantly, it is a serious thing. And so when we think about how do we really get right with this problem, though, because this is a big problem. It makes us sad, it's overwhelming, pressure. How do we be accountable to something like that? Something like white supremacy culture, or the awful effects of corporate cronyism and late capitalism and global war and climate change. It's just too big and I'm too small, right? Feels overwhelming. When we approach our problems that way, as we often approach things in life, it's on me, it's my job to take care of X issue. You can't do it here, and we suffer compassion fatigue. That apathy, if there are sins, I reckon that apathy is one of the greatest sins. It's ubiquitous. It's hard to notice too sometimes because it is literally not feeling a thing. It's when we are shut off. And it doesn't make us monsters to feel that, friends. It just means that we are worn out, run ragged. There is sorrow in that feeling. Heck, that kind of stuff leads to depression, right? But it doesn't have to be sad, but it must be serious. Now, I know many of y'all are on that journey, opening your hearts up to the wounds of this world, looking at it, witnessing to it, experiencing it, following those words in the Tao that sing to me like gospel. The highest good is like water. It goes to the low places for other people to stain, and in doing so nourishes all things. I want to be like that. I believe there's something profound with that kind of social justice work, where we are working with, and particularly centering, the people who are on the bottom, in the low places, where other people disdain. Making lilies grow in the ditch, bringing new life where there was no life, a way where there is no way, inspiring and fueling the efforts of folks in marginalized communities so that they can do the work themselves, so that they can lead the way and tell us what they need. Helping the Malcolm X Foundation is a wonderful example of this. Fueling the people who have the spirit and have the experience, have the story, and following their lead. Otherwise, we risk running over people's dreams. So when it comes to matters of social justice, trust. I know a lot of people get irritated at Unitarian ministers because, like, you talk about social justice, but you don't talk about spirituality. I'm trying to talk about both here. And what I mean to say is, when we enter into efforts to uplift the lives of people whose experience of the world are different from us, take off your shoes. You are on holy ground. You may tread on somebody else's dreams. It is a time to listen and to learn and to understand that you're going to mess up. We know that you're going to mess up. I know as a trans woman, when I'm doing trans advocacy work and people with good hearts come forward and say, hey, what can I do? Y'all, we know that people who maybe haven't been around trans people might get a pronoun wrong once in a while. It doesn't make you a monster. We're products of our cultures, right? We're products of our society. And we also are beings infused with inherent worth and dignity. And what does that actually mean? Well, it means that we can adapt with this world, that we are worthy, that we can claim the change that is our birthright and be made new, be made different. And every single moment, every moment is a possibility for that transformation to happen. And that's part of what we're about here. Authenticity, compassion, transformation. So we reckon with Yom Kippur as an opportunity for purity for people in the Jewish tradition. We might also consider what that term purity means for us. I can't tell you what it means for us. I think it will mean different things. But the opportunity to be made different and be changed and be made new, or like new, to feel new, perhaps, to freshen up. Well, I reckon that's something we can all benefit from, something we can harness. And certainly Yom Kippur calls on us to be compassionate, to forgive others as well as ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves too. Otherwise, how can we embrace that at-one-ment in the atonement? That unity of purpose and being in community before we break apart again and fracture, as we inevitably will, to come back around at some point and try to make things more whole. Well, we need to be able to accept the forgiveness that is offered by others and to extend it to ourselves. And that can be harder than saying I'm sorry, because it first and foremost requires us to believe our first principle of Unitarian Universalism. We have to believe it in our bones. The others are more guideposts, but when it comes to us as individuals, the inherent worth and dignity really can't be summed up for debate. We matter. You matter. You have a storm in you, friends, beautiful and terrifying. It is capable of so much wonder and goodness. It is capable of harm. We know this. We know this. The worth and dignity doesn't mean that we're good all the time, but it means that we matter and our choices matter, and we are able to integrate and grow and change in this world for a greater good, if we so choose. We find that inspiration for justice and goodness. I've been thinking of inspiration like this. It's like kindling, whittled from experience. It doesn't do anything without our decision. It doesn't do anything without the spark of our motion, of our action. And so, know that you are forgiven, but act on that too. Move with that forgiveness that you receive from others. And know that we can't be absolved of the sins of the past in this country. We must be engaged with them in big ways, yeah, and in small ways, in the interpersonal ways, in the ways in which we are processing and learning new things all the time, taking it in, all this world, and all the hurt it carries. So as I said, friends, got lost. So as we said, it can be tempting to feel bad about all that's wrong and sad and scary in the world. It is okay to feel that sorrow. But I'd invite you to reflect on two quotes before we move into our final hymn. One, with the crush of the days, consider the life of a Jewish man, Albert Camus, philosopher, novelist, French Algiers, living during World War II, hiding in a basement in Paris while the Third Reich invaded France. And he wrote these words in a letter to a friend. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. And that makes me happy, for it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back. Echoing through time, I believe Leonard Cohen, another son of Judaism, brilliant, reflects that idea of Camus quite well in his song Anthem, which you've heard me say before and you'll hear me say again because I love this line. And I'll invite us to hear it and then reflect on it for just a few moments before we go into our closing hymn. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That is how the light gets in. Amen.